Hello and welcome to NBL Overtime, a massive round of NBL action. We saw some of the best wins and we saw some of the absolute worst we've probably seen in the last 10 or so years. An absolute shocker there, and I'm looking right at you, Brisbane Bullets. But we got plenty of good stuff to break down. Damon Lowry, welcome in. It was quite the round.
It was. Let's talk about it.
Let's do that in a moment. Pete, how are you doing?
I'm good. The race is heating up, right? We've got a lot of things to look at in the ladder, and it's heating up in this studio, so let's get going.
It is. Well, the air conditioning's broken, so let's see how much we sweat by the end of this one. But I'll tell you, talk about sweating. Someone who's going to be sweating very, very hard is the Tasmania Jack Jumpers, because right now they are limping to the play-in spot right now. Undermanned, but never out of it. Those teams, mainly the 36ers, are hunting them down like cattle for that play-in spot.
Well, there's multiple races to look at here. Obviously, you've got the race to get to the play-in to 6 spots, so it's probably going to be Tassie versus Adelaide. That's what it looks like. Who's going to get that last play-in tournament spot? It's also 3 and 4. Who's going to get the home court advantage in that second play-in game where you get a double chance? And then second spot, there's a race for that as well. And it looks like we could potentially have a case where spots 2 to 6 could all be decided by percentage. That's how close the NBL seasons usually are. We're heading down that route once again.
It's awesome. We got multiple races going on. Now, with only 4 games to go for most of these teams, you can look at Tasmania, and I can say right now, you might be lucky if you win one more. Ooh. They might win one, and that'll be lucky to even get that one. Adelaide, they need to get, I think, at least 3 wins out of their last 6, because I can't see Tassie getting past 13 wins. So I'm going to say Adelaide is going to leapfrog Tassie to get the 6th spot. Illawarra straight. Now, Melbourne United, getting ready to hop on that slippery slide.
And I'll tell you what, that slippery slide could end up with one of the best playing games we've seen. Back at John Cain Arena, Melbourne taking on the Adelaide 36ers at full strength. Could be one of the ones to watch. But the one thing we did learn throughout this round was the road to the championship goes through the gong.
Where?
Illawarra. Is it the gong or Illawarra? Which one do we want to roll with?
It's the gong.
Okay, we're going with the gong. It rolls through the gong. It doesn't actually quite sound that cool, but that's where it's going to go through right there. It was 1 versus 2, and admittedly, Melbourne United are in a tailspin, and we're going to touch on them. But Damon, Illawarra, they knocked off their probably nearest competitor.
Oh, no.
Oh, no.
Oh, where did that come from?
Is that a yarmulke?
Where did that come from?
Oh, God.
We talking Illawarra Hawks. It's their time. I said this early in the preseason. It's going through them. They brought back 90% of their team. Justin Tatum came back rejuvenated, the coach of the year, runner-up last year. This year, he's got his crew in, brings in Darius Days. Now, Darius, out of all the imports in the league, he's the one import that doesn't have to average 15 to 17 points a game. He's getting 11 and 7. That's fine. He's capable of more than that, but that's perfectly for what they need right now. This team has the most buy-in, the most camaraderie of anybody ever, any team in the entire league. These dudes just don't play together. They love to play together. Everything is rolling perfectly in the gong. They're strong in the gong. They focused. I can't see it. Illawarra and maybe Perth for the championship series. Hawks in 4.
Tell you what, my sinuses are playing up. Look, there's that much dust coming off that hat that you've just pulled out of God knows where, because your pockets are empty.
I pulled it out of the championship closet, a place that you've probably never been to.
Hey, no, I got a championship to my name.
Okay, then.
I got a championship to my name. Maybe you guys might have done a little bit more to earn yours.
And I would like another bucket hat, too, Hawkies down there. So you got new buckets.
I'm a big fan of that hat. I like the logo they've got going on there. Big fan.
But speaking of Darius Davis or Days, whichever one we want to roll with, the hamstring injury. Now, Lee Montagna, he's someone who knows a lot about hamstring injuries come from the footy world. He said 2 to 3 weeks. We're starting to hear hamstring awareness. Do you want to break that one down?
Well, that's what Justin Tatum alluded to in the press conference, that he felt it tighten up, and it's more so, hey, let's just get you off. Let's just monitor this, because he's an important piece to their championship credentials. Make no mistake about that. So I like that was the first thing that we heard from Justin Tatum in the presser. Hopefully once they do scans and figure all that out, that he doesn't miss too much time. They could probably get away with him missing maybe a week and a half, a little bit. If you don't want to lose him, so you don't no need to rush him back if he has got a bit of awareness. But I'm with you. We talk about them. We've spoken about it for a few weeks now. We've all sat here genuinely believing that they are the leading championship contenders for good reason. They've been healthy largely throughout this whole point. They've figured it all out. Their rotation's been set for a very long time. They tweaked the starting lineup with Days and Peatling. But I've always said this, and I look at the recent history of winning titles, is your superstars, your starting unit, will get you to a championship series. They'll get you to a top spot finish. That's what they've done with Tyler Harvey, Trey Kell, Froling. but your supporting cast will win you a title, and their supporting cast is better than any other supporting cast in the league. So when it gets to a 5-game series or a 3-game series, I trust them more than anyone else to get it done.
And let me just add this too. If they can pull it off and win this championship for the first time in 24 years, this could be a dynasty. They could run this thing back. You look at the ages. I had to write them down just to make sure I didn't stuff up anybody. Wani Swakala-Bullock, 23 years of age. H.J. Lee, 24. Darius Days, 25. Peatling, 27. Sam Frawley's only 24. Seems like he's been around for 10 years. Dave O'Hickey, 26. The old dudes is Tyler and Trey at 30 and 31.
Yep.
And Tyler's going to be an Aussie.
Correct.
So I'm saying, if they can pull it off this year, they run this thing back. You could be looking at what Sydney Kings did back in the day.
And what I will add to that is a lot of people will say, well, will they have the money? If they win a championship, the salaries for these players often goes up. Their owner has deep pockets. He has very, very deep pockets, and I can imagine once you see the wins piling up, you're a little bit more inclined to continue that spend. If you're a team that's spent big, a la Melbourne United, and maybe haven't had the success some of those years, you're probably less inclined to throw it out there. But I think their owner, who's courtside at every game and he is invested in this thing, is going to do all he can to keep this together. But Wani Swakala-Bullock, his defense on Chris Goulding. Now, the crowd did their best to add in there with the flop counter and the shirts and all that sort of stuff. That's what makes playing in the gong so special, is that. But he locked down Chris in the second half.
Yeah, I mean, Chris Goulding had 14 points early, but just keep an eye on what he's doing. And this is what we'll talk about in Melbourne in a few segments after this, is when he is locked up a little bit or is having to work so hard to get his buckets, who else is going to step up? But look where Wani Swakala-Bullock is guarding him. This is what they're saying is, you are our leading defender. You are the one who's setting the tone for us. So even when he does get clipped on a screen, back door, here comes Mason Peatling to help. That's just having trust in your teammates. So everything that he does, he's staying locked in, focused, and he is the leading contender for best defensive player. And that's the three that Delhi's going to have to knock down, we keep talking about. But right now, because it's peer voted as well, I think that's also going to help his case that the rest of the league understands that what you're doing on a team that is top, a team that is clear favourites amongst everybody else, you'll get more weight towards that because you have been unbelievable defensively. You've set a tone. You've stuck to the game plan, which was, hey, we want to make other guys beat us against Melbourne. We want to make someone else do it. We're going to not let Chris Goulding do it. He did an exceptional job. He's done this. We looked at his scalps, 2 months ago? He was taking big scalps individually. He's done it against Sydney, and he's the leading contender for best defensive player.
Wani is a great defender. I don't have him as my defensive player of the year, though. So I feel like he's not as disruptive. Now, in saying this, Wani Swakala-Bullock is in my all NBL defensive team, which we got to get.
100%.
100% we got to get. He's in that team. I'm leaning towards Shea Illy because he just seems way more disruptive. Now, Wani's only averaging 22 minutes a game. And yes, his defense on Chris Goulding, it was awesome, but it was a collective too. Because when he got beat, he had help. That's the one thing. They don't just leave Wani out on an island and expect no one player can guard any one great scorer by themselves. I like the way the Hawks are doing it by committee, but Wani is definitely the head of the snake. Definitely make no mistakes about that. But with his minutes played only to 22, that's the only thing that's got me kind of.
But what makes a player more likely to win a best defensive player and a leading contender is the fact that they've got the trust in their teammates to step up and do that. That's what made Shea Illy one of the best defenders in the league. He knows, I'm going to pressure up the ball. I'm going to do everything I can. As soon as I get beat, which doesn't happen too often for both of them, someone's going to have my help behind. We saw him in the clips, which is why it's going to be between those two. I don't think anybody else. Xavier Cooks maybe will be up there, but I think it's going to come down to those two.
Well, let's have a look at the Illawarra Hawks run home to see how they're going to round out this season. They've got the top spot all locked up. So are they going to play full squads? Are they going to take a bit of rest? You've got plenty of away games there, Pete.
Yeah, big. I mean, they play the bottom two teams on the ladder in Cairns and New Zealand. That Tasmania game, we know Tassie's going to be really hungry. So we all want to see that last round. We want to see it versus Sydney. Do they get the sweep? You know that even if their top spot's sewn up, you can't expect them to rest anybody.
Yeah, now that freeway series is going to be lively as usual. And, I got the Hawks winning every one of those games.
Two names, quickly off topic, that I want to see gone. The Sunshine Stoush and the Freeway Series.
You don't like it?
Oh, hate it.
You got to
have some. I've got nothing better. Okay. So I've got nothing better to add to it, but I'll think about it for next week to try to get a new name, maybe a toll road, something like that. We can add that one to the Freeway Series to give it a bit more life. But the Southeast Melbourne Phoenix, are they potentially the biggest contender against Illawarra? Because for me, and I've been like this all year, I've said, oh, what a resurgence from Southeast Melbourne. They were pretty much 5 games in when Josh King took the helm. This isn't really a resurgence. This is a team that's been consistently good for a vast, vast majority of the year. Have we been treating it as this fairy tale sort of turnaround when you look at that, 0-5 to start, and they've been utterly fantastic. Credit to Sam McKinnon, who did take the reins there. 12-4 since he took over and taking some good scalps along the way.
It has been a turnaround, and it is a little bit of a fairy tale because, like you see, when they was 0-5 and Mike gets the sack, then you got Simon Mitchell coming in, taking the job. Then you got Tommy Greer leaving. So it's been a lot of upheaval, been a lot of different stuff going on, a lot of moving pieces in the heartland. And now you bring in a guy who don't even know these dudes. Doesn't even, at least Justin Tatum was on the bench with the Hawks last season, whereas Josh King don't even know these guys. So he shows up and just brings his enthusiasm, brings all his passion to that team, and they all bought in. And they did it twice without Derek Walton Jr. Came in and had Derek. Derek kind of played himself to the bench a little bit. He's done it with Joe Wieskamp getting the DNP. He still sticks to his guns, and these guys respond. And Nathan Sobey is playing the best basketball that I have seen him play in his career. Not all those great stats he had in his past, his younger days aside, this is the most efficient and surgical I've ever seen him play.
And Sobey needs the credit, Pete. We talk Josh King, but Sobey was playing atrocious basketball for the first 5 games of the year. He has been in all NBL first team since then.
He's been unbelievable. And again, I think we said this way back in the first couple of weeks of the show is this is the type of coach that Nathan Sobey needs. And he needs an energetic coach who's not afraid to keep him in check. And he has been, you're right. If he had the numbers that he's putting up right now under Josh King, if this was all season numbers, he's still NBL first teamer.
Yeah.
He would be because 19-4, 4.5 and 5 with 1.6 steals on a team that's 12-4, he would be all NBL first team. We know he got off to a slow start, but look, I'm all in on what Southeast Melbourne can achieve, even without Derek Walton Jr. But I like the fact that Owen Foxwell's not afraid at the moment. Angus Glover's going to step into the starting role. He's been doing a wonderful job. They've got Matt Hurt, who's unguardable. I love what Geordie Hunter's brought. Malik Lewis has been great. They've got all these pieces, and I think that Josh King is the X factor to help them. I think he's going to be a clear runner-up coach of the year. I think some people might give him some votes for first votes. I think Justin Tatum will win it, and deservedly so. They've been unbelievable. But you can make a really good case for what Josh King's doing as well.
Well, Josh King's got an eerily similar season to what Justin Tatum had when he lost it to Dean Vickerman. In that year, the best team overall won. So I think that was the right move. Do you see a world somewhere, Damon, where if they roll the table to finish this season, you could see Josh King, or is Justin Tatum got this one signed up?
And that's all due respect to Josh King. Love his game. He's the runner-up coach of the year. They run home. Sydney, that's going to be so lively on Wednesday, man. Tassie, like I said, Tassie just don't have enough offensive firepower to compete. In those other 3 games, they could go either way. But here's the thing about the Southeast Melbourne Phoenix I like the most. This is a small ball league. The Sydney Kings can't play tall ball. They only small. A lot of teams, when they go with Geordie Hunter off the bench, Matt Hurt is still 6'9", and he's unguardable, and no big can stay with him. So they don't go down in size. Malik Lewis, 6'8". They still got enough size on the board to keep you honest. That's what I like about them. They don't need to stay tall. Like the Hawks can always be tall. Southeast Melbourne Phoenix might be the only team that can match them in that regard.
What makes this even more impressive when you look at since Josh King took over? Besides injuries where guys have missed time, they didn't change any personnel. Like, they've done this with the exact same group that they signed in the offseason.
But on that topic, let's not act like this is some bum team. This is top to bottom. This is one of the most talented. We had a lot of them were talking, you know, this is a potential championship team purely based off the roster in the preseason. Now, it didn't gel with Mike, but I do give Josh King a huge amount of credit. I reckon he's a potential coach of the year, probably won't win it. But we have to remember, this roster is stacked and they are paying to win a championship.
Well, I said that way back when we were doing all the early predictions and breakdowns, that I thought this team could be one of the leading offensive teams from all the pieces they put together, Wieskamp, all of that. But defensively, we didn't see any of that in the first 5 or 6 rounds. So for them to have unearthed this defensive game plan under Josh King is a lot of credit to what he's done and be able to find that within them as playing group, and that's why they're going to be a contender.
Well, the dynamics of Victoria have been flipped on their head because Melbourne United, well, we've said it time and time again, sounding like a broken record, they are in a tailspin, and it culminated with a loss, an absolutely dominating loss against the Illawarra Hawks. And Dean Vickerman spoke post-game about the sort of role that Ian Clark's been playing within that unit over the last few weeks.
You know, we're staying really positive with him. We know what he's capable of. We know what he did at the start of the year and how well he shot the basketball. He still got some pretty good looks that he's capable of knocking in. So, you know, I felt like tonight was going to be a night that he was ready to go, that it was coming for him.
Ian Clark, he's certainly been struggling, but it's not just Ian Clark. You look, this is players with 25-plus points in a game this season. I can tell you the other teams in the league, there's a lot more names and there's higher numbers on that one. Rob Lowe, now he's a guy that came in late in the season. You're probably not going to win games if he's your only guy outside of Chris Goulding putting up multiple 25-plus point games. But Damon, I'm going to give you the floor here because you've got some strong opinions on people potentially blaming Ian Clark.
Yeah, first of all, the Melbourne United are offensively challenged from a start. We acknowledge that, right? Ian Clark, I've called for him to step up. He's just been missing shots. He hasn't been playing bad basketball. And I just pick up on a little bit of a vibe. Is a former import, not in NBL, but import in Australia, that when something goes wrong, it's the import's fault all the time. That's the easy out. That's the easy guy to point the finger to. Matthew Dellavedova, Shea Illy are not averaging the amount of points that Ian Clark is averaging. And he's playing the least amount of minutes between them two. So why are we even making that big of a deal? And he doesn't even have the ball. Shea's got the ball, playing beautiful at the point. If he don't have the ball, Delly's got the ball. If them two ain't got the ball, they looking for Chris. What's Ian Clark doing? Pete, you pulled up a video, some clips once where you saw a guy just standing in the corner. Ian Clark hits the court, and he just waits for something good to present itself. He's not the guy that can get the ball, and United are not the type of team that's going to let him just get the ball, go one-on-one. They got to get it through the system. He's just been shooting bad. That's it.
I think he's just in a slump. I don't think anybody's blaming Ian Clark, and if they are, it's ludicrous. He's just in a slump that everyone goes through. It's just more magnified because, one, Melbourne have been struggling. They've won 3 of their last 9. And 2, in their offensive weapon hierarchy, it's really Chris Goulding, then Ian Clark. And you look around the league, if this was Tyler Harvey on the Illawarra Hawks, it would be overshadowed by the fact that Sam Froling put up big numbers all the time. So can Darius Days. It's because they have struggled offensively overall. Delly's another one. Jack White's been up and down offensively, that it's more magnified. And as Dean said, he knows that he's going to break out of it eventually, but it's him. He's got to have to. So Delly's going to have to step up, Shea and Jack White, for them to get back on track.
And I'm not saying that Dean is calling him a scapegoat. Dean has clearly got support for him. We got our ears to the streets. We live in the streets. And I don't like the narrative in the streets. It ain't on Ian Clark.
Tell me about it, my man.
No, I'll get you later.
Almost. United's run home. Now, for me, I'm just not sure how they get out of this rut because they have a whole lot to do and they don't have much time at all. The only thing that's going to help them, those final 2 home games there, they're going to be sneaking into, they're going to be in the play-in at worst, you'd imagine. But if you're going into that in terrible form, it's not a good spell going up against an Adelaide or such.
It's a massive game over in Perth tomorrow night. That's going to be a big key to watch. Brisbane, they should take care of that. Tassie, even without all their injuries, they come in a drop pain. There's just something about it. So that's going to be a battle and then a throwdown. When I did my ladder predictor 2 weeks ago, it came down to a throwdown where Melbourne could finish 2nd or they could finish 5th. That's how close it is and how every game is so important. It's going to be tough, but are they up for the challenge?
If Melbourne continue the way they're playing and they come into a play-in game, even for me, against Tasmania, arguably Tasmania's nemesis, I'm taking Tasmania in that game, even as undermanned as they are. That's what they're like at John Cairns. So Melbourne United, they want to avoid that at all costs, and they need to turn this thing around quick. But rest in peace, Corey. It's time for an Ain't No Cupcake League. What have we seen that's just pricked our ears a little bit around the league? And I'm going to kick this one off because, for those who don't know, teams have to put a team sheet in before the game. They have the players listed, the starters, and they also have the coaches. Now, the Cairns Taipans, I'm not sure it was Heritage Round or Retro Round, but if you look down there, Aaron Fern, that was one that just took me by a little bit of surprise. Now, as we get the side-by-side. Now, Adam Ford, of course, on the left, and I'm pretty sure that's Aaron Fern, or it could also be the bloke in Dandenong who sold me a used Mazda that was an absolute lemon a couple of years back. So I'm not exactly sure what's going on there, but hey, Aaron Fern, he's doing a fantastic job in the States, but I think he might want to ask for a paycheck because apparently Cairns is still using his name and likeness.
The signature was more, it's been signed off on that.
Also, dirty work from whoever had sacked onto that graphic. That was not me.
We all make mistakes. We make plenty of them, some more than others. But you're free here. I was watching the game. Everyone was watching the game, and I noticed this. Have a look at this. You can't be missing this one. Christian Doolittle. Oh, wow.
Oh, God. You're not
Christian Doolittle. Somebody.
No, he's still in.
Somebody in the front row could have just had a little tap on his ankles there.
Who's the baseline ref?
To be fair, Karma probably played out when he probably should have made that one. You can't, and we see some really good glow-ups, right? And again, when we talk about guys who like to look after themselves. You're number one. You've looked very good here since you've had your hair.
Look after yourself is a bit of a stretch, but yes, I do like to.
Watching some games, we're calling games, watching closely, and we're seeing a lot more of Toy Smith-Milner right now. I noticed that he's had a glow up himself. So we know he can grow a beard. He likes to get the mullet going. But I was watching the other day, and have a look at this. That is the fresh fade. That's the same. Did he ask for the Nick Dacos too? The beard, we're all envious of the beard.
I'll tell you what, but the closer you look at that, for those who have watched Toy Smith-Milner for a while, he must have one of the most skilled barbers on earth because he's gone from the fade from the elbow up.
Oh, no.
That is remarkable.
No.
The barber's just said, hey, whip the shirt off, young fella.
No, I can't join in.
I'm going to clip that thing down to the arms. I think he looks great. He's a new father
Look
this
good,
year.
play
Everything's
good.
going well for Toey.
He does look very good.
He looks very good. He's in very good shape as well.
Now, look, I don't like any kind of disrespect to any member of the Little Big Man Society. Now, Parker Jackson Cartwright, who is clearly one of the best players in the league, he wears number 6. That's his number. And what is that? Number 34, no name on the back, like he's just a regular dude. Don't like it. Whoever's in, that's the blood uniform, I guess. Yeah. Where is Parker's uniform?
Come on, man. There's got to be a kid in the background with a jersey.
Now, wait a minute. Our mate Brad here. Brad has done a great job. He's going up in the stands. He interviewed everybody and their dog after the game.
You look so happy out there talking about tonight. You are a starting.
He's got Wani now.
What's that? That's 3 altogether.
3 so far.
3 altogether.
Oh my God! He's walked up a couple of flights of stairs to get H.J. Lee.
He's sweating. What's H.J. Lee doing up there?
Brad is a man of the people. But.
Oh no.
But.
Oh, I saw this.
Now when you go and interview my man Lockie Albrick, what happens now?
Thanks so much. Good luck in the second half.
Left him hanging. Left him hanging. Brad Rosen, you Sydney King lover, Illawarra Hawk hater. We'll remember that, Brad.
You know what? People always tell me that Brad Rosen's biased towards the Kings. Maybe I'm starting to believe it.
You can't be doing that.
Not my man, Brad.
No, you don't lock your handshake when you see him again.
God, are you done yet? You had a few. Yeah, quite a few in there. You're earning money this week.
Over here.
We got plenty more to break down coming up after the break. Well, it was a fantastic episode of Keeping Up with the 36ers this week. Now, it's been a long time since we were on air. So this news, the original news of the Mike Wells, Kendrick Davis stoush happened right as we went off air. So we are going to touch it for a moment here. We're going to kick it off with Olgun's article, which just added a bit of fuel to the fire. Olgun Ulick, ESPN's lead reporter, reported that there was drama in the locker room, an altercation between their lead point guard Kendrick Davis and Mike Wells got way out of hand and not physical, but it was getting very, very close to be. As you can see the article right here, it was a clash in the locker room, Peter Hooley, just to shorten that one up a little bit. Yeah, it was. I mean, the key takeaway as well, so some visiting Hawks players could hear it as well. I heard the same thing, and I think everybody did. Obviously, I think Code Sports went into more information about what happened with their piece online, and then this was Kendrick's response that he shortly after deleted. And I was happy that he deleted it, because to back up Olgun here, from a lot of people, a lot of very, very good sources who, of course, you know, a lot of people are going to go, they name your sources. That's not how journalism works, unfortunately. You're not going to burn every locker room source that you've got. But Kendrick Davis deleted the tweet, went on to have a great game. It's all done in my book. It's dusted. He's a young player. It was an emotional reaction to hearing some news, something that he probably wanted to stay within the locker room, but I don't think that anger should be directed at Olgun. It's probably directed to the people in the locker room that are talking.
Olgun's doing his job. That's exactly what he's supposed to do. The Adelaide 36ers need to do their job by keeping things in-house. Well, you know, I mean, we've already seen players giving interviews, spilling all the family business. So, yeah, but like one thing about the 36ers, regardless of all that drama, you heard what Jason Cadiz said, they still together. They still a team that believes that they can win and beat anybody. So, look, they're one of those kind of families that they just kind of, they have a little scrap every now and then, but then they get on with it.
They split the weekend, and the one thing I've loved about Kendrick Davis all year is he's called his shot. He's brutally honest, and that's why we can never shoot him down when he tweets stuff out or does any of this, because I love his brutal honesty in the post-game presser, and I love him calling his shot and then backing it up every single time. 31-10 against Perth, and then went to Cairns, had a really nice outing as well. The season he's putting together, statistically, we haven't seen this from a first-year import in a very, very, very long time. He can score with the best of them. When he gets in this isolation, it doesn't matter who's guarding him, he seems to just get to his spot.
He rises up, he's got the mid-range, he hits tough shots, and out in transition, he's one of the quickest, if not the quickest in the league. So he's been very fun to watch in that regard. And I like this from Adelaide in terms of, we saw it with the whole crisis meeting last time, which wasn't that long ago, but they came out, beat Sydney, and then they thrashed Melbourne at home. So now their backs are against the wall in terms of every game is so important. They're chasing sixth spot. Ideally for them, they don't want to have to rely on Tasmania to fumble, even though a lot of people think that they will with their run home. They're just trying to win every game, and it's going to start with a big one on Friday night for them.
Kendrick Davis, 25 years of age. He's just learning how to be a pro. And one thing you can't teach is that kind of skill that he has. You can't teach his speed. You can't teach his scoring ability. Look, he's going to have some growing pains. Just like if it was a young 25-year-old Australian guy, we put a lot of responsibility on him because he's an import. He'll figure out those little bumps along the way as his career evolves. But as far as Adelaide 36ers go, I feel like they're going to get that sixth spot because, again, they're going to win enough games because Tassie's going to lose enough games. But I'm not too gassed up on the fact what they did to Cairns. I mean, it was Cairns. Like, you talk about Felix' strength of schedule. They went down there to Cairns, and Cairns didn't want to play basketball that day. They ran amok. And after that first quarter explosion by DJ, that game was even for 3 quarters on the scoreboard at least.
Back on the Kendrick thing, I think, as you said, he's a second-year pro, 25. So the more he gets accustomed to being a pro, the more the understanding of how everything works. And it's not just obviously about hoops, there's all these other things and the maturity that comes with it year in, year out. If he stays, I think Ruck said it, if he stays in the NBL, this is going to be a multiple-time MVP winner. Like, he's been exceptional. As we said, 25, maturity. How old are you?
29.
So he's got a few years to go in terms of maturity to reach it. But I love what I've seen. I hope we see him for a very long time.
Now, in the game against Cairns, DJ put on one of the best first quarter performances we've ever seen. 7 threes in the first quarter. And fellas, it's very rare that I have to summon someone to the overtime kangaroo court. Oh. But Mike Wells is officially on trial. And I am a harsh, harsh judge and jury and executioner because he was subbed out of the game in the first quarter by Mike Wells, who I deeply respect as a coach. To sub this guy out when he was that hot is criminal, and the court does not look fondly on it.
Okay, we said that when we were calling that game. It looked like we were like, how do you come out? DJ asked for a sub.
You couldn't have told me that before.
You
couldn't have told me that before we went on air.
Wait a minute.
DJ, he was tired. They just came from Perth. It's humid up there. He just run up and down. It was a pickup game. There was no whistles. He asked for a breather, and I told him already. I said to him, if you ask for a breather, 1, you shouldn't because you're on a heater. But 2, at least get 3 more shots up and really test the waters because it cooled him down. He should have had 13 plus in that game.
Wait a minute. He called himself out the game?
Yeah, quick breather.
These kids these days, man.
Oh, no.
In this era of coaches playing 15 dudes in a quarter, I'm always talking about how you got to leave your studs on the floor. DJ, you dropped 7 threes and call yourself out the game? How the hell you gonna make a shot from the bench? You ain't got that kind of range. 2 things, I don't know what it feels like to make 10 threes in a game, and I damn sure don't know what it feels like to call myself out the game. They will have to pick up my lifeless body off the floor before I put my hand up to call out the game. I can't believe that.
I can sympathise because I was begging Dean Vickerman to sub me out when I was over 4, and he left me out there for another 3 shots. I can't control it. But anyway, we got a whole rundown meeting, Pete. You don't want to tell me that DJ subs himself out before I put the guy on trial?
Well, no, again, I couldn't believe it either. But having said, I keep saying that Cairns was the toughest road trip for me. It was always exhausting, the humidity, for whatever reason. I would have been calling out for the game too. Just let me get a quick couple of minutes. I'll come back in and let it fly. But to be fair, I'm more upset that he only took 2 threes in the second quarter. That was my biggest thing.
All right, well, you know what? It's time for me to hit my stride. Tasmania 0 of 2 this weekend, unfortunately. And Scott Roth had a bit to say in the presser. Right now it is injury mayhem over there in Tasmania.
He's probably 6 to 8 weeks away. He's out. Majik Dayang is out. Shawnee Mack is out. So that's all. Majik Dayang would probably be the only one that might have a slight chance to play in Cairns, but I would say no.
Limping towards the finish line. Now, it is not a knock on them for losing games whatsoever. There is no team that will put in as much of a fight this undermanned than what Tasmania are doing right now.
That's 2 positive comments. Are you going down to Tassie soon?
Maybe.
Yeah, I'm trying to. You need to win a championship. For all of that, you need some luck on your side in terms of health. You really do. In any sport, to get there, you have to be healthy. You have to have most of your best players available. They don't have that. They are really struck down with Three massive pieces, massive. But you've got their starting point guard out, their starting centre would have been a candidate for Defensive Player of the Year, and a key bench product who could be contending for Sixth Man of the Year. Had quite not doing what he's doing, but also he continued to step up in Majuk Deng. So three of the most, these aren't just role players. These are three of the most important pieces. They're still with a chance to play postseason basketball, but man, it's getting tough.
It's going to be hard. And like I said, you need a certain level of talent to get through. The Jackie way is a real thing, and they're going to still compete. Like the Kings, they had the Kings on. Kings were scared to death going those last few minutes down the stretch, and then they just faltered. But when you get them back in my State Bank Arena, guys like Anthony Dremick is going to play a little bit better. Guys like Ruben Tarangi, who were quiet the next game against Sydney, I expect them to step up. They're going to still play their absolute butts off. And Milton Doyle, he'll do enough. Him and Jordan Crawford, I just feel like they're just going to run out of bodies.
He's going to have a big game at him left. Doyle and Crawford are going to have a game left where they both roll. And if they're both going, then I reckon that they can still win a game. But speaking of falter, Ian Hummer had the opportunity to make one of the greatest shots in NBL history, time considered, and one of the worst. Now, we see the clock there. It says 4.4.
Oh, it says 44.
Now, it says 4.4 seconds. Now it says 44. So there was a clock error, but there was a 30-second break to fix the clock. So Ian Hummer had ample time to check what was on the actual clock there, and he's come out and thought there was 4.4. Now, with that knowledge, you probably don't look on it as badly as originally it was, Pete, but it's still, as a professional, you've got to know to check the clock right when you get back on court because it was fixed.
For sure, and it's a tough one to swallow, right? Because when you actually go back and look at the play, all he would have had to do, had he seen the time, would have just shoveled it to Milton Doyle, who would have had a wide open three ball, would have cut it to three. Who knows? I still think Sydney would have won the game, but not ideal.
He got the deflection, created a steal. He was wide open. It was a two for one situation.
Take a dribble then. You get against the 3-point line.
2 for 1. He gets fired and they bring back 2 more if you take that shot. No chance whatsoever. It was a clock mishap there. But Scott Roth as well, something pricked my ears in the press conference, and he said it a couple of times now, and it's just got me a little bit confused.
You said it, my friend. That's how I react. My patented line is, we're owned by the NBL. If I open my mouth, all I'm doing is getting the red phone picked up and dialed straight to me, and I don't want to deal with the red phone.
Scott, if you're owned by the NBL, you'd think that they would look after you and they would give you more free throws. It makes sense if the opposition was owned. I could understand that argument. But this argument that we're owned by the NBL, which is brought up multiple times after losses, to me, does not make a single iota of sense.
I mean, you look at the numbers though, and he might have a point. There's some massive. Who
attacks the rim, Peter?
Can I finish my point,
Ooh,
Felix?
Peter.
Can I finish my point?
Called you by your
so
government.
when you start something and you throw it at me, let me finish it.
No.
What I was going to say was the numbers are stuck. You can understand his frustrations, but with key guys out, Will Magnay's one who would get fouled a lot, but Fabian Kristovic, they don't roll it into him a whole lot in terms of going and attacking the hoop. Jordan Crawford lives with floaters, and he gets to his game, step backs. Milton Doyle likes to live in the mid-range. Anthony Dremick's probably, with Majuk Deng out now, he's probably the key guy who's going to turn a corner and put heat on the rim. They really don't have a lot of guys who are going to draw fouls. Now, there are still some, I'll go back to the Sydney game. Milton Doyle, he got hacked a couple of times. There are still a couple of them there, but they just don't have that personnel normally available who's going to put heat on the rim. Thank you.
Do you think Scott Roth's out of line with the owned by the NBL comments?
Yeah, I mean, I think so because of where they're coming from when what you talk about when you break it down, more heat on the rim. But again, if you go back, I looked at some of the ones from Milton Doyle. Milton Doyle should have at least had 2 and 1s. So if the frustration there in the time, I can understand when the frustration's boiling over.
That whole owned by the NBL thing, now stop that. Now, come on, man. You just won the championship. Yes, I mean, come on now. You're about to get a brand new stadium pretty soon. But, like, that's part of the thing, though. That's part of defending the island. Us Tasmanians, you guys are all hating on us, and we got to band together and circle the wagons. That's a bit of shtick, in my opinion. But as far as that foul count go, and I'll add to what you're saying, agree with all of that you said, they also pick up full court and play defense like maniacs most of the time. They play the hardest D man for man. They're going to get fouls. So the foul count's going to rack up. The other team's going to be shooting free throws.
And you also know what it means when they have these home games that are crucial. He's going to tell their team to put heat on the rim.
Oh, yeah.
And they should get a little... He's a genius.
Time and time again, I would say Scott Roth is not an idiot by any stretch. He's a smart man, and I believe every move that he makes is calculated. But credit to the Tassie fans as well, because sometimes they throw reality right out the window on social media and will back their team to the death. And you know what? There is something honourable about doing that online. But let's look at Tasmania and Adelaide's run home. Right now, Tassie sitting in sixth, but they are limping with injuries. Adelaide, full strength. Oh, I reckon they got a bit of fight left in them.
It's going to be right down to the death, isn't it? All those games. So right now, if Tasmania get one more, they get to 13, and then Adelaide's going to have to win at least 2 or 3 to leapfrog them. But, oh, it's going to be fun to watch. New Zealand and Brisbane, those two should be wins for Adelaide. The game in Sydney, they beat Sydney last time. I think they match up very well against the Kings. What they don't want at the 36ers is to leave it to the Phoenix and Perth the last 2 games. You do not want to leave that down to fate. And again, you also don't want to leave it over to go to Perth, where if you lose, it has to be by a certain margin. You don't want to have that issue as well going into Bryce Cotton's home.
Yeah, because they don't score a lot of points, Tassie. And also, Adelaide got to go to New Zealand. New Zealand's one of those teams that's playing for pride and playing for all those intangible things. Never know how they're going to respond. So this ain't going to be an easy road for Adelaide, but I'm still going to lean towards them to get that 6th spot.
In true NBL fashion, just as the end of the season is always incredibly unpredictable, so is overtime. What's going to happen next? Stick around till after the break.
Chris Golding gets another one to go. That's his 4th. DJ again.
Oh, wow.
4-3 in the corner. Jack White gets it up top. CG 43, 37 on the night. Make that 40. Melbourne United lead by 2. This is NBA Jam stuff right now from DJ. No way. Oh!
Yeah, well, thanks to Mitsubishi Motors threes. The players are allowed to shoot threes this year thanks to Mitsubishi Motors. Chris Golding, 82 up the top. They are chasing, they are chasing, they are chasing. DJ, he probably could have got to 82 if Mike Wells hadn't subbed him out in that first quarter, but unfortunately for him, he's just remaining down the bottom of that list. Now, the Perth Wildcats, they're an interesting one. There again, if we talk South East Melbourne being one of the biggest contenders, we probably got to throw in those Pussycats in there as well, because the fans will come for us if we don't. But they're certainly right up there. They're playing hot, they're playing heavy, and Doolittle's back in the team.
Not only is Christian Doolittle back in the team, he's come off the bench. John Rillie, man, for all the John Rillie critics out there in the world, you guys need to kick rocks. This dude is coaching his ass off. He's starting a lineup as we looking at Christian Doolittle's phenomenal highlights. He's a grown man. He's got the mid-range game, and he's a throwback to old school basketball, Pete. He can score from right there. Okay, he banked it, but don't matter. He can score. He's a mismatch problem. What I like about Perth, though, Izano Manza is starting along with David Okwara. David Okwara didn't even play last year. John Rillie goes, no, there you go, give you your opportunity. He's grabbed it with both hands, and now you're coming off the bench. They can just hold the fort for 3 to 4 minutes. Here comes Doolittle. Here comes Keanu Pinder. It is great. I'm loving it.
I really believe in the Perth Wildcats. I think right now you've got the Illawarra Hawks, we spoke about the Phoenix and the Perth Wildcats in those top 3 contending teams. They've got a very friendly run home, but you have to have those couple of things we talked about. You have to be healthy at the right time, and you have to peak at the right time, which I think they're doing. And I know you're massive on John Rillie. You just mentioned there, Damon. But he is doing that right now with the rotation. What he's done for Ben Henshaw and Elijah Pepper, they're picking their moments to go. I think they've got all the pieces to really be a handful coming down the end of the stretch.
It's almost like Mark Arena did the right thing, extending this guy early and giving him the confidence to make a couple of these moves, knowing he's got more years to come and he's not playing for his life or coaching for his life towards the end. But now, I have been critical of Tasmania throughout the year for their strength of win. So it is only right that we look at Perth under the same microscope. And we look here. Oh boy, there's plenty of wins over plenty of mediocre teams. Peter Hood.
Yeah, well, we don't show those home and away ones. I still look at they were 6-1 on a road stretch, and they were struggling at the start of the season on the road. They then figured out how to travel, whatever it was, because maybe I think, and we talk about teams like Melbourne going on the road for an extended period of time, I think that's what they kind of looked into as, hey, we're going to play 7 straight games on the road. So it was early December, they were at RAC Arena and they played that last game at Adelaide. There was all this road stretch over the holiday periods where they just used that to come together, and regardless of who they play. I know they went to Cairns, they did all of that, but when you're going on the road and take wins, you take them how you can get them. I think they're very impressive. And again, I think their run home now, they're at home in front of their fans. they're peaking at the right time. When you get to a play, it looks like they're potentially going to go straight to the semi-final series. They'll have a say in how things shake.
And then we're talking about, like you say, you can only play who's in front of you. You and your whole strength of schedule thing, I'm done with that, man. We only got 10 teams in the league.
Throw hands.
We only got 10 teams in the league, Felix. So what are you going to do?
Yeah,
You're going to play.
Some of them don't much worse than others.
You're going to play Illawarra all the time? Now, outside of Cairns, who always been on the bottom, there's other teams that fluctuated. The Sydney Kings can be second and they can be fifth. Melbourne United can be first and they can be fourth. So teams are always shuffling around. So to say the strength of schedule, I ain't liking it. So Felix, nah, man.
Yes.
Leonard, yeah, we're going to need you back. Damon's poking holes in my narrative. Yep, thanks. I'll talk to you after the show. Anyway, time to move on after that nonsense. The Sydney Kings. Now, we don't know what we're going to get for them game in, game out. But you know what? For a team that we've said all year the sky is falling in, they are sitting pretty in third. Quat Noi right now is playing his behind off. I'm not sure if I can say the word on TV. Behind.
Nah, Big Shot Kawhi is balling. And the Sydney Kings, yep, they are sitting third. One thing about the Kings with all their, I guess, I wouldn't say dysfunction, but they've had their own set of issues down there in Sydney. Cam Oliver plays. Sometimes they lose Kelly LePepe. This team is always small. Xavier Cooks is consistent, but this guy right here is the MVP of the last at least 6 to 7 games, at least. Oh, for the season is Xavier Cooks. But I'm saying he's a guy that, like Brian said, you can just get a ball to. The way they play, they spread you out. Jalen Adams is the best out, in my opinion. Point guard, decision maker, down the stretch, forget about it. And Kawhi loves playing with a guy like Jalen, just gets him shots. Xavier Cooks is the perfect guy to get you that extra pass, and Kawhi just has one role, score the ball. He's been doing it his whole career.
The thing I love about Quat Noi is he's not afraid to call his own shot in the media, even yelling at the commentators during the game about what awards you could win, but he spoke about it a little bit earlier as well.
Hey, give it to me all. I want most improved, I want 6 man, I want all NBL second team. Let's go, baby.
Are we forgetting something there? Are we forgetting the championship in that little list?
That's implied.
I think when Brad asked him about it, he'll be the 6th man of the year and deservedly so. But I love what Kawhi Noi does on the floor but off the floor, because we see it in fans and us as media people as well. Everybody wants players to be their authentic self.
Yeah.
So when we get a guy like this, and then some people don't like it, you can't have it both ways. I love it. And if you have a problem with it, that's your own fault, because we have been begging, we want to see it more from players to speak their mind like this. I want Kawhi Noi I want him to be even more outrageous than he is, because it makes it that much more entertaining when he goes and has performances like that.
If you have a problem with players speaking their own mind and showing personality, there's plenty of Big Bash games that you can watch. There's plenty of that going on one of the other channels. You could tune into that, but these guys are ours. Plenty more coming up after the break.
Yeah, I'm probably going to fire a bullet. Like, the starters really let us down. Aside from Tanner, I think the starters really let us down. Taran goes under on DJ. DJ hits his second 3 because he just nailed one the possession before, which, you know, don't go under on a shooter. And then we get into this pissing contest with them where, again, P comes down, shoots a 3, Rob shoots a 3, Tanner shoots another 3, and we call a timeout. Now the score's 7-23. I thought we weathered the storm a little bit in the second quarter. We just really had an emphasis of winning the second quarter, regardless of what the score was. We come out at half-time, and I think, again, the starters let us down. And Taran tries to do something cute behind the back to Alex when he had Kyle wide open on the 3. I don't always try and point fingers in this scenario, but in this case, no, the starters really let us down.
I love a good press conference. I love it. And Adam Ford is my kind of guy. If I wasn't 67 years old, man, I'll tell you I would try to play for this dude. Now, he was so honest with his team, because this is the era where you got to be careful how you talk to guys. Guys get real sensitive. They all say, hold us accountable. But when accountability shows up, they don't want no parts of it. Adam Ford said he's been saying all season, we've been shooting ourselves in the foot. We're playing tight. We don't know how to win games. It's got to the point now where guys are starting to play with that selfish look. And I'm not saying they're selfish people. Their play is selfish. And we called that game, Pete. And you said that one possession with Taran went that way when he had Kyle Adam wide open. It's little things like this. And when you're losing all these kind of games, everything is more magnified. For Adam Ford, kudos to you, man, for calling those guys out. And if they're professionals, they will take it on board and own it and come out with some more passion and some more venom. But I'm all for those truth bombs.
Well, I'll tell you what, I don't know, it hasn't been a bad season for Cairns for me. They're leading the summer shootout, which is the be-all and end-all. You know, you can keep your championships. I am summer shootout dominant.
Well, they are, and they're going to have to protect that score against the Hawks. That's the next game as well, so 40's going to rev them up. I actually think they're really going to show up defensively because they said they wanted to try and win, as you would, when you've got nothing else to play for as well. So they're going to have to really defend against the Hawks, who are going to run up a big score, you'd think.
Well, let's have a look at Kansas free agents. Who are they going to keep? Who are they going to get rid of? Probably the biggest one is Adam Ford up the top, who's out of contract now. Taron Armstrong, you'd imagine, Pete, he's going to go and find greener pastures, potentially in the NBA. We're not sure, but there's plenty of names on that list. Tanner Groves, you can manage to keep him. Jonah Antonio's a nice little shooter. There's plenty of names which I think they can start to build around.
Yeah, the biggest two for me, I think Taron Armstrong will get some sort of NBA opportunity, whether it's Summer League, whether it's a two-way, whatever that is. Rob Edwards and Sam Wardenberg are the two for me that I'm going to keep an eye on.
Sam Wardenberg, Coda Gacken, there's a name on there that should be Alex Titcher. Alex Higgins-Titcher. I'm locking this young dude up too.
I reckon they're definitely going to lock him up as well. The Brisbane Bullets. Now, if you're a Brisbane Bullets fan, that performance against Cairns, I said off the top that there were some terrible losses throughout the year. That Brisbane Bullets loss could be one of the worst we've seen in a long time, considering what was on the line and what they were up against, even though they had injuries throughout.
It was tough to watch. It was, and I know Justin Schuller spoke about not only do they have key guys missing, but they have guys playing injured. But when they go back and review that film, there were certain things that you can control, and I think that is especially your effort in locking in defensively. That just wasn't there. And again, when you're battling so hard, the Illawarra Hawks loss is different. That is a complete anomaly. You literally got 9 total players. You've got guys who have never played games before starting. But that game in particular against Cairns on your home floor, that was disappointing.
Yeah, some things that you got to just do as a professional basketball player, regardless of who is in the lineup and who's not. You got to get back on defense. Like, do you need to be an NBL veteran to get back on defense, to move the ball, to not play selfish, to box out? All those little things. It looked like Justin Schuller said at one stage, it looked like it just got too hard. And this is when you find out about your guys. Anybody can walk around with their chest poked out when things are great. It's when things get really difficult, you find out what your team is really made of. So I think it's been a little bit of an eye-opener for Justin Schuller these last few games.
Well, when you're undermanned and you're dealing with injuries, one thing you can't do is start slow. And Brisbane have had an issue with that. Before the Perth game, Josh Bannon spoke about it.
I think there's a patch there where we started trying to save ourselves, knowing how many bodies we got, trying to prevent fatigue sort of as the game goes on. And I think that, to me, is hard to look at yourself after the game in the mirror. Like that's the type of thing where, yeah, I prefer to go balls to the wall until I can't no more and then run out of legs and live with the fact that, okay, we just didn't have enough tonight.
I'm starting to think the slow starts might be because Josh Bannon needs a Red Bull or a Monster to just wake up a little young fella.
Well, this has been their so slats. Again, I don't look at that Illawarra one too much, but Cairns especially, minus 17 in that second quarter, at the end of the second quarter, same with Perth. But especially when you're down key players, it's a great point though. You just need to start and set a tone. They didn't set a tone against Cairns, and Cairns got excited and then just ran over the top of them.
Well, it's time for Sportsbet's Trend is Your Friend. Where are the markets leading and where are they playing? Pete Hooley gave me a fantastic segue into this, saying that Cairns are going to rock up and play defence and prevent the Illawarra Hawks from winning the summer shootout. So I'm going to go the complete opposite. The Illawarra Hawks are a team that has the ability to absolutely run up the score. Now, even though they're sitting pretty at the top of the ladder, this is a team, they love each other. They're jumping up and down on the bench. As soon as you bring this sort of stuff in, you look at the points against here. Right now, the Taipans, you're going to be able to get them. It's not like they're a fantastic defensive team right now. They are gettable on the defensive end.
It's a payback game, too, don't forget. Cairns went to Illawarra and got the dub, so they're going to come out extremely fired up.
Yep, they are. And again, I think 40's press is going to happen, but pressure makes diamonds, or it can burst pipes, and I think the Illawarra Hawks, they could put up 125 plus in this game if they really wanted to.
They've been unbelievable throughout the year, and they're one of the teams where you look at it, look, they do rest players when they get out by a fair bit, but they ran up a score against United, and they did it having fun. So as soon as you start getting these sort of guys in that sort of mentality, Dave O'Hickey starts going, if they get rolling, and the Cairns Taipans roll over, well, I'll tell you what, I think they're at risk. I think they're at big risk of losing their summer shootout crown.
The bench unit could have some more potent offensive power than the starters at times, because you've got HJ Lee, you've got Todd Blanchfield, and you've got Hickey on the break. But those other two knockdown shooters, they could just continue to pile in the pain from deep if they do want to set some guys on the bench down the stretch.
And 40 said, this starting five, that could change. After his press conference,
he's going to try and protect him, surely.
That's the
So
issue.
you're saying he's not a man of his word?
Is that what you're saying, Peter?
He said it could change. He didn't say it will. He said
Okay.
it could.
We'll see.
So you're coming to us both, man. There's a bit of venom in Damon. The bet suggestion for that one is the Hawks to hit their overs there because they are going to be gunning for it. There's 50K on the line. And good luck to any fans who have joined the summer shootout. If you've taken the Hawks, if you've taken
lot of people
Cairns,
have.
there is going to be a lot of people that are riding that one out. We're heading to a break. A little bit more coming up next.
What are you really gambling with? For free and confidential support, call the number on the screen or visit the website.
Welcome back to NBL Overtime. It's Tuesday and the NBL has the nerve to not have a game on tonight. But luckily, they get back to restored programming and we have massive action on Wednesday. Two of the bigger games in the context of the season, Pete.
It's going to have massive ramifications. You look at the round 18 schedule, but Phoenix, State Basketball Centre against the Kings, battle for the top 4 spot, a home court advantage, and then Perth and Melbourne. So that's going to battle for the top 2 spot. It couldn't be bigger on a Wednesday night.
Everything's rolling Wednesday, Thursday, all the way down to Sunday. I'm looking at that Kings Adelaide 36ers game. That's going to be huge in the Perth Wildcats. I just want to see, can they just keep things rolling along just quietly and nicely?
Are you guys most interested in the fight for the play-in or are we most interested in the jostling for top 4 positions?
No, the play-in, because as we said, Adelaide on their night can beat anybody. So if Adelaide can get there, I think they can be a threat if they stay like we saw in the last couple of games.
Same. I'm all about the play-in dudes. The top 4, that's going to sort themselves out, but that play-in, that's going to be the first playoff game we get to see. So that's the one.
Do you want Tassie to sneak in, being as undermanned as they are? Or do you want the Adelaide 36ers to get where potentially we get a full-strength team in the play-in?
I think both are going to cause issues either way. Because again, Tassie, if you're in a one-off play-in game, regardless of who's on the floor, they've been there, done that. They've won a championship. They're going to play the same way. If you're tense on the other end, they're not going to be tense. They're going to be a tough beat.
If Tassie make the finals this year, I'm going to say if Tassie make the finals this year with the roster they're rolling through at the moment with injuries and win a play-in game, that's just as good as what they did last year with the championship. And I officially will stop being mean.
You said a lot of nice things about them today, to be fair.
Yeah, I know. I got a nice little trip there. 3 days, bit of winery, fantastic action. But it's time to head into who's under the most pressure in this fabulous, fabulous round. Look at that, cooking up a storm over there in the lab out in Dandenong.
My man,
Now,
Dean Vickerman.
Whoa.
What? What do you want about? This is my segment. You've already come at me twice this.
Sorry, man. I had to get it out.
Dean Vickerman.
Pressure.
How on earth is Dean Vickerman under pressure?
Pressure is a privilege. Pressure is a privilege. Now, Melbourne United are an institution. They're a brand, like Coca-Cola, like Hungry Jacks. They are expected to win every single season, and not just win, but vie for championships every single season. And right now, they are sliding. This might be one of the worst Melbourne United teams we've seen in quite a few years. Am I lying?
No. The way they're playing right now is not Melbourne United.
We're not used to seeing this. Now, I'm just saying, Dean is not under pressure to lose his job. Nothing like that. I'm just saying, as a team, they are looking at possibly sliding all the way down to the play-in and then being bounced in round 1.
Well, my pressure is this man to get his segment back. He doesn't have things taken from him like that. That's crazy.
3 segments on this show and they all get taken. But I think you're right. Dean Vickerman is certainly not in the chance of losing his job. But Melbourne United has a standard, and right now they're playing here. Damon Larry, you've been fantastic. Peter Hooley, you've been just as good. Plenty of NBL action coming up. A massive Wednesday night.